It is 6 a.m. in Washington, 1 p.m. in Kiev, and 8 p.m. on Friday, February 28th here in Korea. Thank you for joining us. Live from Seoul, I'm Moon Gon-young, and this is ARIRANG News at 8. Now, the air pollution that's been choking Korea over the past week just will not go away. A pre-ultra fine dust warning was issued here in Seoul at 1 p.m. Friday and remains in effect at this hour. Such warnings are issued when levels exceed 60 micrograms per cubic meter for more than 2 hours. But there is some good news, as strong winds from the west are expected to blow the fine dust away from the peninsula this weekend. Until then, children and the elderly are advised to remain indoors and wear masks when they do venture outside. Over in Seoul's National Assembly, lawmakers passed a series of long-pending bills at this month's extraordinary session wrapped up today. Now, but they remain divided over a controversial revision to the nation's pension system. Our National Assembly correspondent Kim Young-gil has the report.
Lawmakers in the National Assembly passed a series of key livelihood bills on Friday, the last day of this month's extraordinary session. Among the bills passed was a revision to the Personal Information Protection Act, which requires financial institutions and public organizations to encrypt a client's 13-digit identification number when storing them in a database.
The Parliamentary Security Committee has thoroughly revised this bill to fully protect our citizens, and the specifics will be written into a presidential decree.
The change was made in response to a massive data leak last month affecting some 20 million card holders at 3 credit card firms and millions more clients at financial institutions in the months prior to that. Lawmakers also passed a bill that will allow the parliament to more swiftly appoint an independent counsel for investigations into an array of sensitive crimes ranging from corruption to wrongdoing by government agencies. The bill creates a parliamentary standing committee that will be responsible for making the independent counsel appointments. In the past, a new committee was created for each new appointment.
The standing committee for appointing independent counselors will consist of 7 government officials.
The bill also allows the formation of a special investigative body charged with monitoring the relatives of the president or senior Blue House members in order to prevent ethical breaches. Lawmakers, however, will not be subject to surveillance. The rival parties were unable to overcome their differences on whether to link the basic pension scheme to the national pension system. That means they failed to put up a vote on a bill that would offer a monthly pension to senior citizens over the age of 65 in the bottom 70% of the income bracket. Kim Young-gil, ARIRANG News.
Inter-Korean relations seem to be heading back on the right track, as seen with the success of the 2 rounds of reunions for war-separated families that ended early this week. That is until last night, when Pyongyang launched 4 short-range Scud missiles into the East Sea. ARIRANG News' Kim Hyun-bin reports.
The South Korean Defense Ministry said Friday that North Korea's latest missile launch seems to have been planned to coincide with the start of Seoul's annual military drills with Washington. The ministry said the North had fired 4 projectiles, which, considering their speed and direction, are presumed to have been short-range Scud missiles. This is the North's first Scud missile launch in 5 years. The launch also follows an incursion by a patrol boat over the de facto maritime border between the 2 countries on Monday, which the Seoul's defense minister said at that time was sent to test the South Korean military. The ministry said the South Korean military is prepared for any provocations from the North. Just hours before the launch, Seoul had proposed a round of Red Cross talks to resolve humanitarian issues, including reunion for families separated by the Korean War. Seoul's unification ministry said on Friday that it is looking to see if the launch would affect inter-Korean relations and the talks that are expected to be held as early as next week. On top of that, a private organization had recently offered to send supplies and food aid to the North, worth nearly $180,000. With the recent improvement of inter-Korean relations, some experts believe the North executed the launch to gain some leverage during negotiations between the 2 Koreas. Other experts believe that this was a protest against the strong condemnation of the North's nuclear program and human rights violations by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. Either way, The South Korean government is keeping a close eye on the situation and plans to set up countermeasures against future provocations. Kim Hyun-bin, ARIRANG News.
South Korea's Unification Ministry says North Korea has so far refused to accept a message regarding a South Korean missionary who has been detained by the North since last October. The ministry said it tried on Friday afternoon to send a message urging Pyongyang to release Kim Jong-wook and to ensure safety until repatriation. North Korea released a video footage Thursday of a press conference in which Kim claimed to be a South Korean spy. Kim said he entered North Korea 4 months ago with the aim of building an underground church in the North Korean capital. And staying in North Korea, the United Nations World Food Program reportedly provided North Korea with some $3 million worth of emergency food aid earlier this month. Washington-based Radio Free Asia reports that the UN Food Agency supplied emergency assistance for children and pregnant women in the north due to a drop in donations from the international community. The UN body is currently trying to collect $200 million earmarked for the two groups in the north by 2015, but has only collected roughly $25 million so far. It estimates that 84% of all North Korean households have borderline or poor food consumption. A top U.S. defense official says Pentagon's plan to cut the Army's overall troop numbers will not affect the number of U.S. troops stationed in South Korea. Speaking at a forum in Washington this week, Acting Deputy Secretary of Defense Christine Fox said the U.S. military operations in Korea will not be affected as they're crucial to ensure the security of the Korean peninsula. She added the U.S. military rebalance to the Asia-Pacific region will also not change. Now, currently, there are slightly over 28,000 U.S. troops stationed in Korea. And earlier this week, U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel unveiled plans to cut U.S. Army numbers by between 70 and 80,000. China sends a strong message to Japan over its recent historical and territorial claims, designated two national days that highlight the wrongdoings committed by Japan during World War II. For more on this story, we turn to our Park Ji-won.
Amid continued tensions in Northeast Asia over historical and territorial issues, China's Standing Committee of the National People's Congress has designated two national days to highlight Japanese aggressions during the Second World War. The Chinese government singled out September 3rd as Victory Day in the war against Japanese aggression to coincide with Japan's surrender to the Allied forces in the Second World War on September 2nd, 1945. China also designated December 13th as the day to remember victims of the Nanjing massacre. Japanese forces captured the Chinese city of Nanjing on December 13, 1937, and for a 6-week period carried out crimes against humanity on the city's citizens. The estimated number of people killed by Japanese troops during the incident ranges from 40,000 to over 300,000. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said the days show the Chinese government is determined about its national sovereignty, territorial stability, and its opposition against any aggressive wars. It also sends a strong message to Japan that any attempts to challenge the post-Second World War order by denying the nature of Japanese aggressions will never be tolerated. The ministry also warned about the resurgence of Japanese militarism and called for Japanese leaders to take a responsible approach toward the matters of history. Meanwhile, Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said Friday that the government will be setting up a special investigative team to re-examine the 1993 Kono Statement, which apologized to sex slaves during the Second World War and acknowledged that Japanese forces were responsible. Despite criticisms within Japan, such as from former Prime Minister Tomichi Murayama, that such a re-examination will rile up neighboring countries like South Korea, the Japanese government has apparently decided to move ahead with the plans. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
With the number of Koreans traveling overseas reaching new heights, it only makes sense that they'd be spending more money in foreign countries. And many of them are electing to put their expenses on their credit cards. The Bank of Korea says Korean nationals charged a record $10.5 billion overseas last year, and this is up 12% from 2012. The central bank attributed the growth to the Korean won strengthening against the U.S. dollar and an increased number of foreign travelers. Some 15 million Koreans had their passports stamped last year, an increase of 8% on year. Industrial output in Korea's mining and manufacturing industries continued to expand in January. It marks the fourth straight month of gains. January's 0.1% growth has declined sharply from the previous month, and this is largely because there were fewer workdays due to the Lunar New Year holiday. Well, Statistics Korea says the growth of overall industrial output inched up to the 1% range in January, suggesting the domestic economy may be recovering. Spending jumped to a 34-month high of 2.8%, or 4% rather, due to an increase in sales of food and automobiles during the New Year holiday. One of Korea's nuclear reactors shut down suddenly earlier this Friday morning. The 950,000 kilowatt Hanbit-2 reactor in Yeonggwang, Jeollanam-do province came to a halt at around 10:50 a.m. State-run plant operator Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power said it is investigating the exact cause of the shutdown, but added that the incident will not interfere with electricity production. This is the first time in 7 years the reactor is shut down, and the second nuclear reactor shut down this year, following one reported late last month in Ulsan, Gyeongsang-Bukdo province. Korea has 23 nuclear reactors. With the shutdown today, 6 are now offline. The final results of an investigation into a massive oil spill off Korea's south coast late last month are in. The Yeosu Maritime Police announced Friday that the total amount of oil spilled was 754,000 liters. Now, that is more than 4.5 times greater than the interim estimate. The Maritime Police have set their sights on more than 60 people in relation to the accident. 8 people have already been charged with counts ranging from negligence in the conduct of business and destruction of evidence. The spill occurred after a tanker hit a landing bridge on January 31st as it tried to dock, causing 3 oil pipelines operated by GS Caltex to rupture. A very interesting story. A 3-parent and in vitro fertilization technique is stirring up controversy in the United States. While biologists say the procedure is a promising way to stop inherited diseases, critics claim it will lead to a generation of designer babies. Kim Min-ji reports.
Baby monkey Mido has 3 parents, 2 biological mothers and 1 father. Mido's mother's egg was injected with mitochondrial DNA from a female donor and then fertilized with his father's sperm. Mitochondria are energy-producing structures which biologists call the powerhouses that drive the cells. Although the material makes up less than 1% of a person's genes, a mutation can cause various inherited diseases, such as Alzheimer's, diabetes, and even cancer. The researchers who had success with a 3-parent in vitro fertilization technique with Mido said the procedure should be allowed for humans.
This will work in humans because we've tested in other primates, non-human primates.
However, the procedure has sparked controversy among critics. They say it is unethical and leads to a generation of customized designer babies.
If it is our opinion right now that we can correct the children this way, that means that we become the manufacturers of new generations.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration held public hearings this week on whether to allow human trials, but no decisions were made. Meanwhile, Britain on Thursday proposed new rules allowing scientists to create 3-parent embryos to prevent the passage of incurable diseases to children. If the rules are approved, Britain will become the first country in the world to allow 3-parent in vitro fertilization. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
It's been a week since ARIRANG TV, Korea's only global broadcasting network, found a new TV home in the United States. Now, in case you didn't already know, ARIRANG TV is now available on America's #1 satellite television provider, DirecTV, on channel 2095. Our Hwang Ji-hye takes a look at how people in Southern California are enjoying their new channel so far.
Here at this hotel in southern Los Angeles, ARIRANG TV on DirecTV is available free of charge to guests.
We used to not have the ARIRANG TV on DirecTV like before, but since we are located in Wilshire and Weston, it's in the middle of Koreatown, it's good to have ARIRANG TV for the guests.
Starting last Thursday, DirecTV customers in the United States could find ARIRANG TV in their channel lineup on channel number 2095, as the Korean broadcasting station has been added to DirecTV's programming as a public interest channel. DirecTV, based in Southern California, is America's #1 satellite television provider that competes with cable TV. K-pop lovers Riley and Allison, who are huge fans of ARIRANG TV's after-school club programs, say they're delighted to have ARIRANG TV on DirecTV.
It's really convenient. We can just turn on the channel and the K-pop shows are already there.
We don't have to search for it on the internet anymore. We can just watch it on TV, so it's a lot easier.
ARIRANG CEO Son Ji-hye says she's confident the Korean broadcasting station will be able to raise awareness of Korea and Korean culture in the U.S. Hwang Ji-hye, ARIRANG News, Los Angeles.
Turning now to the latest from crisis-hit Ukraine. A group of heavily armed men have reportedly taken over 2 airports in the Ukrainian region of Crimea. Kiev has blamed Moscow for sudden occupation of the pro-Russia region, despite reassurances of non-interference from the Kremlin. Our Polly reports.
Ukraine's Interior Minister Arsen Avakov has accused Russia of an armed invasion, denouncing the move as a violation of international agreements. Avakov said the large force of armed men who he claims are Russian soldiers arrived at the Sevastopol military airport in Ukraine's region of Crimea on Friday morning. The airport is located near Russia's Black Sea Fleet naval base. Eyewitnesses say the men dressed in full battle gear, carrying assault rifles and Russian flags, took control of the airport backed by armored vehicles. The other main Crimean airport in Simferopol was also occupied on Friday by armed men who also appear to be pro-Russia militia. It remains unclear whether the seizure is the initial stage of a larger military operation or if it's simply to stall Ukrainian authorities from exerting greater control over the autonomous region. The Russian military has denied that its forces were involved in the seizing of the airports. Earlier, Ukraine's new government in Kiev had warned any movement by Russian forces beyond the base's territory would be tantamount to aggression. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov moved to assure U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry that Russia will respect Ukraine's territory. Other Western nations like Britain and Germany are also calling on Russia to help ease the turmoil in Ukraine's Russian-dominated region. On Thursday, the new Ukrainian government held its first cabinet meeting led by newly appointed Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk. In the meantime, ousted President Viktor Yanukovych is said to be in Russia. Russian state news agencies are reporting that he plans to hold a news conference on Friday. He has declared he is still Ukraine's president, but has lost support across almost the entire country. Paul Yi, ARIRANG News.
From an African nation that is facing suspensions of aid for an anti-gay law to preparations for Hollywood's biggest night, we now connect live to our Yudian standing by at the news center. Liana, Uganda, for one, is in some trouble, it seems.
Hi, Gonyang. The international community is slashing aid to the country for its controversial anti-gay bill that makes homosexual acts illegal and punishable by up to life in prison. The World Bank on Thursday postponed a $90 million loan, which was intended to help strengthen Uganda's healthcare system. Bank officials said they wanted to ensure that the projects the loan was supposed to support would not be adversely affected by the new law. The decision follows similar moves from Denmark, the Netherlands, and Norway, all of which announced that they were suspending assistance to the country. The British intelligence agency has reportedly captured still webcam shots of millions of Yahoo users, which include a large quantity of sexually explicit images. The Guardian newspaper reported Thursday that the British intelligence agency, with the help of the U.S. National Security Agency, collected the images, according to documents leaked by Edward Snowden. A program called Optic Nerve made the interceptions possible and stored captures between 2008 and 2010. Yahoo said if the report is true, it would constitute a whole new level in the violation of their users' privacy. U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen says America's harsh weather has played a role in lower than forecast employment, retail, and manufacturing figures. Yellen told a key Senate committee on Thursday that Fed officials will look into the matter as they're not sure how big a factor the weather is playing and whether it will influence the tapering of the Fed's bond buying program. If plans stay on course, the Fed will trim its monthly bond purchases from 65 to 55 billion U.S. dollars next month. Now, over in Hollywood, preparations are underway for the biggest night of the year in the entertainment industry. The 87th Academy Awards will take place this Sunday, and unlike previous years, the race for Best Original Song is garnering a lot of attention.
Song category is the most interesting category, in my opinion, and it's drawn the biggest campaigning this year. You see U2 on Jimmy Fallon talking about their Oscar nomination. You see Pharrell doing party after party trying to promote this song from Despicable Me 2. I think U2, Karen O, Pharrell, great pedigrees, big rock stars, but the juggernaut that is Frozen is going to wipe them all away.
Now, Let It Go has become a YouTube sensation, and some critics are even attributing the movie's success to the song. Now, that's all from me for now, but I'll be back with more updates in just about 2 hours.
Time now to check on the weather conditions, and for that, let's turn to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung, I think everyone is wondering when this fine dust situation will come to an end here.
Well, Kanya, we're certainly in the thick of it because as we reported earlier, a pre-ultra fine this morning was issued at 1 p.m. here in Seoul, which is currently seeing 132 micrograms per cubic meter of fine dust. Now, this is triple the normal level, so those with respiratory problems must take caution. However, there is hope. Strong winds from the west will gradually push out all of the fine dust over the weekend. Now, currently, the central regions are seeing cloudy skies. However, it is raining in most parts of the southern regions, and those regions will get about 5 millimeters of precipitation. Other than that, tomorrow looks to be a cloudy or drizzly day nationwide, but it will be sunny on Sunday. Taking a look at tomorrow's readings, Seoul and Gwangju hit 9 degrees, while Daegu and Busan reached the low teens. As for other regions, Daejeon and Jeju also peak in the low teens, while Dokdo and Mount Kumgang top out at 7 and 1 degrees respectively. That's all for Korea, and let's take a look at the international weather.
And that is all from me at this hour. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with a complete wrap-up of the day on Primetime News.